Hey guys, Stockaholics, I appreciate you guys being here today. I recently made quite an extensive video talking about A2 Milk on why I was thinking about investing in this company. I thought that there's a little bit I could add to the last video that I made, even though it was quite long. This video is going to focus a lot on the Chinese aspect of the business, some Chinese consumer trends and some things like that. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think that this side of this Chinese aspect of the business is the main reason that there has been a significant drag on the share price, causing the price of this company's stock to more than half over the past several months. Yeah. So that's what I'll be talking about in this video. So I like to listen to some of the opposing views I have on some of my business ideas, the bear theses, if you will. And I think this is one of or at least what I've heard, is one of the more significant ones. And this is that A2 Milk relies heavily on Chinese infant formula sales, which is correct. And also that birth rates in China are in decline, which is also true if you look at this chart. Yeah. So if you look from the 80s to about today, the birth rate in China has been declining. Yeah. And this is a fair point. If birth rates continue to drop, especially at the rate we've seen in the recent months, that means a smaller customer base, right? If a lot of your sales come from this infant formula stuff and there's less babies, then that's less potential customers in the long run for your company. All right, so even though infant births has been in the decline in recent years in China, you will notice that A2 milk sales have increased in this environment in a declining birth population. You can see we remember the last few years there's been a sharp decline in births as opposed to the normal trend of decline in China. However, you'll notice that these beige numbers at the top, by the way, are direct infant formula sales in millions of dollars. In the first half of 2018, the company sold about $40.2 million worth. And in the first half of 21, there has been $213 million worth. So just year over year, there was an increase in these sales of 45%, which is massive growth, right? Now, the problem in the recent months has been these other two channels. So I believe the light blue is sales that are in Australia and New Zealand, and this purple is through an online kind of a sales channel. So we've seen some declines in these two channels, but this is kind of an illusion, I believe, because it has more to do not so much with declining birth rates in China, but because of the sales channel, the Daigou channel, that has been heavily impacted because of COVID-19. Yeah. So even though I've been hearing a lot about this bear thesis with declining infant populations, you tend to hear more of these kinds of bear theses when you notice that the share price of a company is doing a certain thing. So we notice that the share price of the company has been tanking, and that this bear thesis has been gaining a lot of traction, right? But the bear thesis is not why that the company has been reducing sales. Now, last year, the price of oil tanked early in the year when the first COVID lockdowns happened all around the world. At that time, there was an increase in all kinds of bear theses for the price of oil. I was reading all kinds of articles all over the internet that was saying things like oil is dead, that you should get rid of your oil company shares, that solar and wind and renewable energy is the future, right? So you'd be a big dummy if you held on to your oil company shares, right? Well, you'll notice that these bear theses, again, just gain a lot of traction when share prices and the price of that commodity are in their worst states, which is one of the reasons why I like being a contrarian investor, is because these belief sets, they don't tend to match what's actually happening, the fundamentals of whatever that thing may be. So in this case, when we're talking about A2 milk, the declining birth rates in China don't have anything to do with why the share price has been declining. We've seen decline in birth rates in China, but we're still seeing an increase in sales in that channel in A2 milk. I wanted to share this with you guys to kind of put some things into perspective. What we're looking at here is birth rates in various Asian countries. And you'll notice that all of these Asian countries, their birth rates have been in decline. And to me, this isn't surprising at all. This is something I know from having learned a little bit about sociology. When countries get into a certain level of development, they tend to have declining birth rates. So post-industrial nations, they almost always fall into this pattern. The Western world has similar birth rates compared to China. And usually post-industrial nations fall into this 1.5 to 2.0 birth range. To expect something different to happen in China, I think is kind of ludicrous, because I don't see any reason why China wouldn't have decreasing birth rates just as any other post-industrial nation would. So I guess the question comes, if you're bearish on Chinese infant formula, you should probably be bearish on infant formula or milk all around the world. And, you know, fair point if you are, but I'm not. So the A2 milk bull thesis for me, it never relied on an increasing population in China. To me, I see this as fear hysteria associated with a stock price decline, and it's not representative of the actual situations that's happening with the company. For me, a declining Chinese infant population is an expectation. It's something that I've always expected is going to happen. Yeah, all post-industrial nations have population decline. Then births, they tend to level off around 1 to 2 children per woman. Now, I still think that sales of A2 milk and infant formula both are going to continue to increase in China over the next several years at least. And I'm going to share with you guys in this video some reasons why. So reason number one that I think that this company is going to see increased sales is because they differentiate themselves. A2 milk differentiates themselves from their competition, and they have first movers advantage in their type of product that they are. Reason number two, the Chinese have a higher than average dairy intolerance, but they still have massive appetite for the product. Reason number three, women in China, they have certain behaviors. They have a very high workforce participation rate, and they don't breastfeed as much as people in other countries. Reason number four, the Chinese middle class continues to grow, and this likely means increased sales in milk and infant formula products. All right, so reason number one, A2 milk differentiates themselves from their competition. I talked about this, I think, a lot in the last video, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's one of the main reasons why I'm bullish on this company. Yeah. Now, A2 milk produces A2 only kind of milk, whereas ordinary milk contains A1 and A2 proteins. In my last video, there was a lot of comments asking about the science, or about if there was any health benefits or to A2 versus ordinary milk. I don't fall in the camp that says that there is. I don't really know if there is or there isn't. I think I've seen some scientific studies, but a lot of them seem to be biased based on who's funding the study, right? If, let's say, for example, A2 milk is funding a scientific study on the benefits of A2 milk, well, the results of that study are likely to be skewed. What I do know is that there is a lot of people who claim to have be able to drink milk when they otherwise couldn't. So for example, here is a quote from some guy named Pat, and this is from the A2 milk site, but I've seen these kinds of reviews from all kinds of sources. So I thought I was lactose intolerant. Even lactose-free milk bothered me. I drank this milk and all went well, and it's yummy. I sure was missing milk, and now I can drink it again. So again, some people claim that there's health benefits from drinking A2 milk over ordinary milk. I don't know. The main reason I'm a fan of this product is because it opens up a new customer base that might not otherwise exist from ordinary milk, right? Now, what's awesome about A2 milk, the company, is that they're associated with this product. In fact, I think they invented it. Yeah. So there's some companies like Nestle, and there's some companies like Danone that have tried to kind of imitate this company's products, but it means less because this is the company that's associated with the product itself. So they have something called first movers advantage. When people look to buy this A2 milk, they may buy it from Nestle, they may buy it from Dannon, but if you're concerned about the quality of the product, you'll probably buy it from the company that's associated with it themselves. Okay, so reason number 2, Chinese demand for milk grows despite high dairy intolerance. So again, a big portion, a big segment of this company's business comes from China, so that's why I'm talking about this. This is an article from BBC by Veronique Greenwood. Why China developed a fresh taste for milk. So for many generations, Chinese adults mostly ignored milk, seeing it as a food for children or the elderly. And there's a biological reason why it took so long to catch on. China's appetite for milk has exploded in recent years. The nation of nearly 1.4 billion people is now the world's second largest consumer of dairy products, and imports are flying over the border, with dairies from New Zealand to Germany topping off the behemoth's demand for milk. By the way, A2 milk is from New Zealand. An intriguing little detail in all of this frothy commerce is that many people in China, like much of Asia, are lactose intolerant. Human children produce an enzyme that allows them to digest milk, but in much of the world, its levels taper off as they grow up. Now, people of European descent are somewhat unusual in that most continue to digest dairy effortlessly as adults. In China, a much-cited study estimates that 92% of adults had trouble absorbing lactose. More recently, China's Preventive Medicine Agency suggests that by the time kids are 11 to 13, around 40% of them have lost the ability to digest it. So imagine you're a parent and you have some level of lactose intolerance, and you have an infant. Now, if you're concerned with the health of your child and say, well, I have dairy intolerance, perhaps my offspring is very likely to also have dairy intolerance, I believe that that would increase the probability that the parent is going to purchase a product that might have a less of a chance of causing these kinds of symptoms associated with dairy intolerance. So from what I read, many Chinese see milk as a health product. They still want to drink it. And if they have these kind of lactose issues, then that increases the chance that they're probably going to buy something that alleviates these issues, like A2 milk. All right, so reason number 3, women in China have a very high workforce participation rate. This is an article from Catalyst, Workplaces That Work for Women. This is just a quick stat that I took from this article. So China has one of Asia Pacific's highest labor force participation rates for women. However, women's labor force participation rate has been slightly declining since the 1990s. In the 90s, it was 73.2% to about 60.5% today. Now, again, this 60.5% is still a very high percentage rate, and it's not something that's repeated all over the world. Now, the main reason I'm bringing this up is to think about women and children. I believe that working women who are working in the early stages of an infant's life are much more likely to buy infant formula than they would be to breastfeed their child. And you can kind of see that that is the case, I think, maybe, or at least you can imply that there's a correlation. It may or may not be true. But reason number 3, women in China, they don't breastfeed as much as other nations. So why do Chinese mothers breastfeed less than the world? Well, this person tends to believe that it is the milk companies themselves. Only 30% of Chinese babies are fed only breast milk, the survey finds. Group behind the study blames advertising for China, trailing the global average and its own target of 50% by 2020. I disagree. I think I'm sharing this anyway, just because the stats are correct in this article. But it's not because of milk ads. They're buying milk because they're the formula products because they are working a lot and they have less time available to breastfeed. Yeah. Again, anyway, I'll read this. Breastfeeding remains unpopular in China, driven partly by the success of milk formula advertising, said a public research institute, as it called for the adverts to be banned. The World Health Organization advocates all babies under 6 months old drink solely breast milk, but in mainland China, only 29% of that group are breastfed. According to a study by the China Development Research Foundation, news site the paper CN reported, this figure is well below the global average of 43%. Okay, so reason number 4 why I think sales of A2 milk are going to continue to increase in China is that the Chinese middle class continues to grow. So this is an article by China Banking News. China to approach majority middle class status by 2025. The Macro Polo report. And I believe that this report is an American report, so if you're concerned about bias in this article. A new report from Chicago-based think tank Macro Polo expects China to avoid the middle income trap and approach majority middle class status within as little as 5 years' time. The China Economy 2025, eluding the middle income trap, report sees China becoming a near majority middle class country by 2025, on the back of reforms that will make the economy far more consumption driven. For the first time in China's modern history, nearly half the population will be middle class or above, writes report author Hui Song. As of 2019, around 31% of China's population, or 430 million people, that's a huge amount of people, fall under China's official middle income category, which is defined as monthly per capita income of over 2,000 yuan, approximately $300. In order to increase this share of population, Song expects China to focus on improving the livelihoods of 600 million low-income citizens in China that live on less than 1,000 yuan a month. So milk, at least what my understanding of it from a Chinese perspective, is it's kind of seen as a increasingly luxury product, right? Now, if we're thinking about the middle class increasing in China, that means that more middle class means more consumer spending, which means more spending on milk and milk infant formula like A2 milk. Okay, so some closing thoughts on this video. What the heck was I talking about? The PE of A2 milk is currently around 20. Now, that might not seem like the greatest deal ever, but I'm going to share why I think that it is. This company was previously trading for a very long time at about 30 times earning. Now, that's not the only thing. The issue with the PE of 20 right now is that it's trading at a depressed historical PE, but it's also with an earnings setback. So the earnings decline that we've seen, it's trading at a 20 of that earnings decline. And I believe that earnings decline is temporary. I believe earnings will rebound in the next year as the world continues to be vaccinated and borders open. The biggest issue with this company, again, is through the Daigou channel in Australian sales. It's those customers that come from China, purchase some milk in other countries or infant formula, and then they send it back overseas. Yeah. Now, I see that there's an opportunity here. Even if borders don't open, let's say that they're closed forever and the coronavirus is just the end of human civilization, or that the Daigou channel for some reason is gone forever, we continue to see amazing growth in this company through its traditional channels. Again, we saw almost a 50% increase in infant formula sales in direct sales in China. So to me, like, if the Daigou channel never comes back, I still win purchasing at the levels we're at. And if it does come back, then I win a lot. I win way more. So it's a heads I win, tails I win more kind of a scenario. Now, as you may notice, if you've been looking at the share price, that doesn't mean that the share price isn't going to fall further. Right now, it's down 15% in the last month. And since I've bought first, oh, by the way, I bought some shares a few weeks ago. Since I first bought, the share price is down 20 cents a share in American currency. I'm still buying more. I don't much care what the share price does in the next few weeks and months. I see this as a historic buying opportunity. I am buying a fixed dollar amount every week, and I'm planning to do that every few weeks until I reach my target amount for this investment. So I'm not gonna lump sum purchase these shares, because as you may have noticed, that the share price is in a downtrend. So I don't want to buy everything at $6 and let's say that the share price gets even worse and let's say it goes to $4 or even to $3. Yeah. So I'm going to be buying over time. Now, I also want to mention that I expect the share price to continue falling. That has been the trend, right? And for me personally, I don't mind catching falling knives if I am confident in my investment thesis. And based on everything that I've done, the fundamental research I've done in this company, I'm extremely confident in this company turning around. Now, nothing against technical analysis. I made a video about this. A lot of them have this belief that they are still bullish on the company, but they want to see a reversion in share price before they buy. In my opinion, by the time they do this and they confirm a move, you're going to miss a lot of the upside in the price. I like the company's price right now. It's $6. So if the price continues to go even lower, to me, that's saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy more shares, right? I believe there's a disconnect in valuation, and it lies in the extreme negative sentiment tied heavily to the Daigou channel and Australian lockdowns, but it ignores the business fundamentals. Now, I'd also like to suggest, and this is something we've seen all in the United States and all kinds of stocks, when there was a shift in sentiment. So the question I have to ask is, how long can these lockdowns continue? And what will happen to this share price and to sentiment when these lockdowns end, and if the Daigou channel resumes? What do you guys think might happen to the share price, right? And to me, that represents a significant upside. If there's at any point that Australia, which has been the major dampening effect on the share price in terms of their lockdowns, let's say that there's any sign that that's going to end, to me, that is likely going to cause a reevaluation of this company. So that's why I'm going to buy this. Now, I also say that I'm not going to buy this forever. Let's say that it goes down into the pennies and whatever, then, so be it, right? I just see that there is a lot more upside in this company than there is downside. Anyway, I hope that this video was useful, maybe hopefully not too redundant compared to some of the stuff I talked about in the last one. But I thought a lot of the Chinese stuff that I mentioned in this video is kind of important to see the long-term potential in this company. Anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend and take it easy.